cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut. Welcome to the top cut.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into today's episode of the Top Cut Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast. My name is Sunny. I am here with my co-host, Swift Birdman Joe. How are you doing?
That is a good one. That is a really good one.
I'm really loving getting your reactions to these.
Swift Birdman. I have a copy of Swift Birdman Joe somewhere. That's a playground staple card right there, Swift Birdman Joe.
And I have the next one lined out too.
Okay.
So
well,
stay tuned for that one.
I will say, Neshi has already dubbed me Crystal Beast Cobalt Skyhawk. Actually, no, I dubbed myself that. Everybody else has just kind of gone with a joke. But Swift Birdman Joe is a work of art. That is good.
Swift Birdman Skyhawk.
Yep, exactly. Skyhawk Birdman Joe.
So yeah, Swift Birdman Isaac. I like that.
That'll do it.
So with that, let's go ahead and get on into today's podcast. Of course, we want to start by thanking all of our wonderful sponsors. So a huge thank you, of course, to ETB Games as well as Steelfox Games. What are you laughing at me for? All I'm doing is the intro.
No. You were this close. I could hear it. You were this close to not reading out the sponsors. You're like, we're going to go ahead into today's episode. And of course, we'll thank our sponsors. You were this close to just
That's how we start the episode, obviously. So thank you to Steelfox and ETB Games for their continued support of the podcast. Be sure to check out the ETB Games case tournament for Age of Overlord. I think it's going to be September 28th. And I cannot confirm the Steelfox case tournament, but the Steelfox case tournament, I think, is September 14th. I think is the date, something like that.
Are you thinking October?
October 14th and 28th.
Mm-hmm.
So, which if you go to the Steelfox one, you won't actually get your product until the set releases because they can't give it out, but they'll ship it to you. So be sure to check those out. Also, we want to thank our affiliate sponsors, which are Dragon Shield and TCG Player. If you just click those links in the description before you shop, it costs you nothing extra to support the podcast. Of course, if you do want to get some discounts, you can be sure to check out our affiliate links for Gem Accessories. I think it's 10% off. And of course, be sure to check out Tier 0 Games for 5% off.
Top Cut 5.
And Tier 0 Games. Yep, Top Cut 5, the code. There's also like an affiliate link that you can just click, I think, but be sure to do the code TopCut5. And then we'll also have a code TopCut5 for Grimoire as soon as that gets set up. But they need to get to 1,000 followers on Twitter, actually, to set up that for reasons that I'm not going to get into. So be sure to go follow at Grimoire TCG on Twitter. We need to get them to 1,000 followers. So go ahead, give them a follow. They have a new drop of playmats coming soon. Be sure to check that out. Our Teespring store. Be sure to join our Discord. And be sure to check out our Patreon for an extra episode every week. And with that, I do want to give a little bit of a, not shout out, whatever the opposite of a shout out is. I want to demand better of our patrons. Listen, come on, guys. These names are getting stale. We gotta mix it up with the names. Yeah, when I'm getting through the whole list in 3 breaths, that's come on, we gotta get funnier names in here.
To be fair, I think the current batch of names is a pretty incredible list. So I can there are definitely some people I can see not wanting to change them because they're really good. But keep it in the back of your mind. Keep it in the back of your head.
Yeah, for sure. So with that said, let's go ahead and get on into the bulk of today's topics. We're gonna go ahead and start with some little bits and pieces of really small news here and there, and then we have one bigger topic to hit at the later on and towards the end of the episode. I will say this episode's a little light on the news, and we don't really. It's like we have enough news to talk about news, and it's like it's weird, right? Because there's enough news to actually have a news discussion, but there's also just enough towards we don't really have time to get on into like a big meta discussion. So it leaves us in this weird in-between where not enough news for a whole news episode, but too much news to do multiple things. So this one we might ramble a bit here and there on certain topics,
Yep.
specifically probably the OCG ban list. But
Yeah.
before we get to that, which is the big one, let's do all the little ones.
Yep, and I do want to say, it's been about as of time of airing, it'll have been about like a day and 7 hours since Arise Heart was banned, and I just want to say good riddance. We'll have a meta breakdown for y'all once it starts to shape up. We'll have some events probably over the next couple of weeks.
This is the new season.
Is this the new season? I might have to.
This is actually the start of the new season. We messed it up.
I might have to go,
no!
I might have to go change some numbers. I totally forgot I worked that way. I don't.
Yeah, I forgot that we did it when the new ban list takes effect. I forgot.
I'll do some shimmying around. I'll make it work on the back end. Or we can just leave it. We'll see.
No, we should change it for posterity's sake.
That's true. I will go back and change it. So for TCG, there's really only one piece of news. They did announce regional locations for Age of Overlord. So if you want to check to see if there's a regional near you, you can go to the company website and go check that out. Sadly, in my local news, the regional is in Calgary again and not Edmonton. So we'll see if I decide I want to drive down there. But I was hoping.
Drive.
I was hoping they'd alternate. It's about 2.5 hours, which is not bad, but is something that I may not choose to do.
Oh wow! I have 3 regionals that are drivable for me.
Mm-hmm.
One is in Dallas, it's actually in Fort Worth, which is like 4.5 hours.
Yep.
And I almost always go to Fort Worth because I generally like it. I think it's a pretty good regional. It's a good location, things like that. But the other one is I can either go to Houston or I can go to Mendenhall, Mississippi. Houston's about 4 to 4.5 hours, depending on which route that I take. And Mendenhall, Mississippi it's like right at 4 hours. The difference is that if I go to Houston, it's a lot farther and a lot more gas, but it's all interstate. So I can do like 80 miles an hour, 85 miles an hour the whole way. But when I get there, I'm in this huge city where there's a ton of traffic and there's like toll roads that you have to navigate. Navigating the city of Houston is a nightmare. But when I get there, the shop there is ridiculous. I mean, it's insane how big and nice the shop is. And also, this is going to sound weird. Because there's so many more people, the competition I feel like is not as crazy. Like the top of the player base there, like the top like 10 players, maybe 20 even, are like YCS champion level players. But the bottom like 500 are going to be like just normal people.
Okay. So
whereas if you go to Mississippi, there's only going to be like 80 people at the regional, but like 20 of them have either topped or won a YCS.
So there's an interesting Twitter take actually. Maybe I can get your quick thoughts on it based on that. I saw somebody post the other day that it was easier to top the NAWCQ than it is to top any YCS or regional, because the huge wide base of players means that on average over the course of a long round of Swiss, you're playing against worse opponents. I personally am not so sure about that, because everybody who shows up to that event has at least gotten their invite. So you're already playing against let's say the generous view of that is that you're playing against like the top 33% of players. So
right, which is wrong, but
yeah, it's you can't. I don't think. I know you're going to go
because
like 9%.
Invites don't go down. It's not true, because people get their invites over and over and over.
That's true, but you also have like a lot of locations where invites might be different, right? Like you said, at those like smaller regionals, and at OTS championships as well. Like they're small. There are smaller events, right? It's probably not 33. I'm being like, that's why I said I'm being like as generous as possible. Like maybe there's a huge number of people who qualify on like last chance qualifiers, right? Like
it's closer, like you're already in the top 10%, but yeah, sure, we'll go with whatever.
Even at like that charitable of a like interpretation of it,
10% is charitable in my opinion, but
that's still like it would still be like the top third or the top 10% of players, right? So I don't. It's maybe if you think you're better than everyone else, then maybe it's true. but
Yeah,
but if that's
yeah,
the case,
for
then
sure.
if that's the case, then it's true everywhere you would go. So I don't know.
Okay,
I think it's a bit.
let me hit
arrogant.
you with some numbers, and I'll get your
All
thoughts
right,
on these
okay,
numbers.
Let's hear it.
And this pertains to this. Okay, there are just shy of like 400 million people, right, in the United States and Canada. Just United States and Canada, there's probably like 380-ish million people, because I think the United States is like 340, something like that, and Canada's like what, 40 million?
Probably between 40 and 42. Yeah.
Okay, so there's like 380, 390, somewhere in that range. Let's just say 380 million people. Of those 380 million people, how many do you think play Yu-Gi-Oh? Just play Yu-Gi-Oh.
Like
At any level, casually, competitively, just play
that
Yu-Gi-Oh.
go to like tournaments in person, or
I'll say the
say that have,
baseline
like,
is
attended a
they go
locals.
to locals.
Okay. I guess probably 20,000, maybe 25.
I think 20 to 25,000 is really on the low side.
Okay.
How many people at your locals do you know that go to locals? Even if they only go, once every other week or once a month, they go to locals. But they will not even go to a regional because it's like too competitive.
Quite a bit. I'd say probably.
Right. So
probably half of them.
Exactly. The locals around me are the same way. We had to convince a friend of mine to go to a regional one time just to play Time Wizard, because even that, he was like, nah, it's too competitive. And I think that there's this huge misunderstanding with how competitive regionals are specifically. And while I do think that you have to be at least competent to top a regional or better, right? I would argue that you have to be pretty decent to top a regional. To top it, you have to be good. But to get your invite, I think you have to at least be like decent, like understand things. And as far as understanding your deck, you have to really understand that. But if you look at, say, a 500-man regional, there's 48 invites that go out to that 500-man regional. So you're already talking about, of the population that actually attends regionals and above, only 10% of those players even get their invites. And then the amount of those that are going to take, and we're not even talking about people that get repeat invites, that go every time. I was just talking to Gary, GGYGO, like an hour ago. He said we're not even done with the first season of this stretch. He's already got multiple invites. So when you look at the population of players that go to regionals, which eliminates half easily already, tops regionals, which is only 10% of those, and if you take out the repeats, you're looking at maybe 4% of players that even appear, that even get an invite to nationals. And then of the people that get invites to nationals, how many are actually going? At the regional that you went to, how many of the people at the last regional the last regional you topped was remote, the last in-person regional you played in, or even the one that you judged, how many of the players that got invites are actually gonna make the flight out to nationals? Maybe 2 or 3 of them, right?
Probably
like,
5. Probably 5 or 6. We got some grinders, but that's still small.
Okay.
Like that's
right. So, like, the sample size for something like this is so small. Like maybe the top 3% even appear at nationals. And then of the top 3% that appear at nationals, that's 3,000 people at the most recent nationals. You're talking about the top 64 top the event, maybe 128. Like, I don't think people realize how difficult of a task that is. So I would say topping a regional or topping a YCS is not harder than topping nationals, because when you get to nationals, the NAWCQ, you're already talking about the top 3% of players are in attendance. And then of those 3%, you're telling me you have to be 64 out of maybe even on a year where you don't have 1 million people with their invites all playing, right? You're still talking about the top, 2% of the top 3% topping. That to me is an extraordinary amount of skill it takes to top that event. So I wholly, not only do I disagree with that take, I disagree with that take on a fundamental like mathematics standpoint.
Well, speaking of topping regionals, that brings us to the other piece
Sorry,
of TCG news.
that was a big rant.
No, this is good.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean for that to be a whole big thing.
I think it's worth making it a whole big thing. I think it's an important thing to talk about. Not only how difficult an accomplishment it is, but also like where the majority of players are.
Who said that?
Right?
Or do you not want to say? Do you want to tell me off the podcast?
I do not. To be real with you, I don't remember who it is. The account
Fair
is
enough.
rather annoying. I'll put it that way. So this is the other piece of news is, speaking of topping regionals, we did get the reveal for the playmat that you get for topping an Age of Overlord regional. They're sticking with the black deck box, which I really like. I'm hoping I can snag one of those. And the mat is Dark Hole Dragon. And if you have not seen it, I'll link it in the description. I might put it up here in the video.
Right here, about
is,
15 minutes in, right here.
It is genuinely beautiful. It's got Dark Hole Dragon kind of coming out of the miasma, well, coming out of the black hole, coming out of the dark hole, and the zones are amazing. The full like extended art is very cool. It's, as much as we have had the discussion about mats as pricing being kind of crummy, the last probably 7 or 8 have all just been bangers. Like the Chaos one was maybe mid. I think it's probably the weakest one, was the Cyberstorm Access one, but the rest of them have been really, really sick.
I mean, just because the playmats aren't good enough pricing for topping an event doesn't mean they have to suck, right? Like, they can still be awesome, and they consistently are.
Yep, I agree. So that's kind of all we have for TCG news. There are like a couple.
We have a couple other things.
Yeah, there's a couple of other discussion topics before we get into the big thing, which is the OCG ban list. So the first one is that we talked about this probably a month ago or so, with the price increase for European YCSs. It almost doubled, in fact. And there was some speculation that might just be a one-event thing, maybe due to the venue or maybe due to something else. But they announced, I believe it's a YCS in Italy that they announced. I can't remember the exact location, but the price for that event is the same as Dortmund was. So it looks like the
Bologna. Bologna, Italy.
I'm gonna look that up.
I'm telling you, it's Bologna, Italy.
Is it?
Because I was trying to decide whether or not I could go, and I can't.
Is it Bochum or Bologna? No, Bochum would be Germany.
Bochum is in Germany. It's Bologna.
Yep. Nope, you are correct. It is Bologna, Italy. Anyway, the immense W. So the price of that event is exactly the
Skyhawk
same.
misinformation counter.
The Skyhawk misinformation counter has gone up 1. To be fair, I said I was going to look it up, and I said it might have been.
And you did say it was Italy, which is correct.
Yeah, I just I know the place. I just don't know the cities. Apologies to Nesh, I guess.
I guess more importantly, the Sunny misinformation counter did not go up.
Yes, correct. The Sunny correct information counter has been going up exponentially. So the price is doubled still. So we know now it's not a venue issue. This is just how Konami EU is going to do it. It sucks. And Dortmund did take longer to sell out than some other events have, but it did sell out. So clearly the demand is there that they feel like they can justify that price increase. I hope that for this event it comes with an increase in pricing, but it's unlikely. I suspect this might be to prevent having the Pokemon issue. For those of you who follow Tatsim on Twitter, Tatsim has been like desperately trying to register for a Pokemon TCG regional, and has not been able to every time because they sell out in like 10 seconds. And it could be that Konami is trying to avoid that, but I mean, I don't think
that's it.
We saw what they did for London, right? They're clearly capable of finding venues that can house a lot of people if they feel like the registrations will be that high. So it's likely that this is just the way that price is. And it seems like EU players are now going to be paying more for sealed product as well. Distributors, especially the rarity collection, seems to be marked up, as were the tins.
It is here too. The rarity collection is way more expensive here.
Well,
I don't know if you've seen that. It's like $7 a pack.
oh, I think on initial pre-orders it wasn't, but it's expensive now because of the demand for it.
No, I think the initial announced MSRP is like $7 per pack.
Okay.
For 5-card packs.
I am not. I am not going to comment on it, so as to not raise my disinformation counter.
No. I may have raised my disinformation counter.
That's true. See, I'm not taking risks. You're taking risks, and I admire you for that.
I was objectively incorrect. The Sunny misinformation counter rises up 1.
Oh,
It shows $4.99 per pack, which is still full MSRP for 5-card packs. So,
well, unfortunately for Sunny's disinformation counter, it will have to go up, but we admire your sacrifice. The second, so the last piece of TCG-ish related news is not really a news piece. It's just kind of an interesting thing that I noticed that I wanted to talk about. So, you know, on the podcast, we criticized the Silver Dark Magician. And I think at the time there maybe was some debate because like the Blue Eyes is worth a fair bit of money, and even though they have the price on this, maybe people will talk about it. The Blue Eyes sold out rather quickly, if I remember correctly. And the Dark Magician, the TCG account, like almost every other day, is posting trying to get people to buy it, and that means people are not buying it. Like, they aren't. They never push stuff this hard. Like, when was the last time you saw them post multiple times about like buy a box of Dune post-release, aside from like the release date and the release celebration? They don't. And the reason for that is because people aren't buying it. And I think that's good. I think it's a good thing.
I think, okay. I want to come back to the YCS prizing after this because I did have a little bit that I wanted to say on that. But as far as this, it's really weird and it's really interesting to me because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a little bit different from Magic the Gathering and Pokemon in that Magic the Gathering has Black Lotus. It also has 8 other cards in the Power 9 and has a bunch of one-off cards here and there, sure. But it has Black Lotus. Pokemon has Charizard. It objectively has Charizard, right? Like you can say Pikachu, sure, Pikachu's probably more recognizable. But the thing that's always going to sell a set is having a special collector Charizard. A special collector Pikachu is not going to sell a set, right? The only special collector Pikachu card really out there is the Illustrator Pikachu. Yeah, and that's only because it's like a one of one kind of thing, not even because it's or one of whatever it is, like 5 or whatever. I don't know. It's a rarity thing, not a hype thing. Charizard is Pokemon's hype thing. And while everyone always has like their favorite Pokemon, it's Charizard. Charizard's the one. Charizard is that guy. So it's interesting because in Yu-Gi-Oh! You have Blue Eyes, but you also have Dark Magician. And it's always a toss-up as to which one is everyone's favorite. And for a long time, I think that Konami has been very comfortable being able to capitalize on both. They have the entire Dark Magician archetype, but they also have a Blue Eyes archetype, right? For a long time, they could do, okay, we're doing a Blue Eyes thing, and we're doing a Dark Magician thing. So it's the two things. Well, now they're starting to realize that the hype of the Blue Eyes has outgained the hype of Dark Magician in most ways. And we're at the point where the Platinum Blue Eyes, that's going to sell. But the Platinum Dark Magician, you already did a Platinum Blue Eyes. You already did the White Whale. Like Dark Magician Girl has more chase value than Dark Magician because of the waifu factor. So I don't think that Dark Magician is any more in his place where Dark Magician's going to sell as well as
Yeah.
Blue
not
Eyes.
to
The
mention-
only time recently that Dark Magician got something that Blue Eyes didn't was the Adidas collection.
Didn't. No, maybe I'm misremembering that. But yeah, and plus
I'm pretty sure it was only Dark Magician.
It was Dark Magician, yeah. The other piece there is that this one was 1,400 USD, and the Blue Eyes was 1,000 on release. It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
But that price difference is like unjustifiable, I think. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you to the collector community for not purchasing this product. It sends a strong message, and I hope you'll stick it out. Maybe if they
Agreed.
if they do like a slash discount and they sell it for 50, maybe. And if you really want something like this, you can on like the official merch store.
50% or $50?
$50. You can get the. If you want
They won't do
something
that.
similar to this, that's not like unbelievably expensive. They actually do have like kind of these like metal slab cards on the merch store, and sometimes they're discounted pretty cheap. You can get like there's silver and gold versions of them, and those are cool, and they don't cost $1,400. They're often at,
Not even a little.
yeah. Sometimes YCS vendors have them too. I remember at London they had a whole bunch of them, and those are cool. Get those instead.
Very cool, yeah.
Get them to make more versions
Agreed.
of those. You want to lead us into the big topic?
I want to just like jump back onto the EU YCS price increase real quick.
Do it.
You were kind of on a roll, and I didn't want to interrupt you because I'm trying to get better about that. As far as that goes, on my side, I think that a lot of it, I think it's become unsustainable for Konami to price the events at what they're pricing them at due to the popularity of the event. They're having to rent bigger and bigger venues. Like at 20 euros per person, 3,000 people, that's 60,000 euros to book that that they brought in at YCS London, right? And even 27 euros, whatever, 90,000 euros they brought in. Let's just say that 27,000 times 3 is 81,000, and they got another 9 from vendors paying to have spots. So you're looking at 90,000 euros. I think they probably lost money on that. Even if you say that from the manufacturers that print the cards, they got all of the cards for prizing and all of the prizing, everything for 5,000, which I would say is underselling it, right? I understand they get the cards significantly cheaper than even distributors, but I think 5,000 for everything that they gave away is probably underselling it. I think they probably had 20,000+ just in staffing costs. I mean, the money that they paid to have even just Wi-Fi access for thousands of people, the money that they paid to have the whole stream setup brought in and set up, and then the money itself for the actual venue, they probably paid 30,000 a day for the room. I mean, that's a big room. Those things are very expensive, especially at a major convention center in London. I don't think that the cost of these buildings has gone down with COVID, and these events have been $20 forever and ever and ever and ever. So even with the price, I think that's a part of the reason that they're raising the MSRP on sets is so that they can justify charging more money for entry to the events because the MSRP of the product has gone up. And I think that all of these convention centers, all of these convention halls are charging more money post-COVID because so many industries are wanting to have events in these event centers. So I think because of that, you have an enormous amount of people booking these event centers, booking these spaces. With all of that competition, pricing heats up, and Konami has to charge more because they cannot afford to keep losing huge amounts of money. Now, do I have absolutely anything other than funny numbers in my head that make it add up? No, I don't have anything other than that. But that to me is what makes the most sense because I just don't think that I not only do I not think they're making any money, I think they're probably losing significant amounts of money on this event.
Okay.
On any of these events.
All right. I'm gonna come in. I'm gonna come in swinging with the flaming fist here. I think that sucks. And honestly,
I didn't say it was cool.
yeah, well, no. So that was poor phrasing, actually. I think it has probably always been true that they lose money on these events, and I have zero sympathy for that. The YCS events are essentially gigantic advertisements. If we're looking at it, when you run a stream and you run a community, they're essentially like, it's the pinnacle of the experience, right? In theory, you lose money on any advertisement, right? But having YCSs and having them be accessible is what keeps a lot of like the people who spend most of the money on the game in the game, and it's what keeps a lot of casual audiences like watching and following, and it keeps the content ecosystem running. It keeps the local ecosystem running for people who want to get better. I think I could understand raising the price a little bit, but to double it, I think is obscene. This is not a small indie company.
What did the price go to?
It doubled from it was like 25 to like 50 or 55.
I thought it went from 25 to 40, which isn't double, but if it went to 50 to 55, that's a lot.
They literally doubled it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I think they probably do lose money, and I think those things are getting more expensive. But for pricing to remain unchanged, except for the entry packs, is, I think, obscene. If you're going to raise the price that much, I think the quality of the event is not going up in like a meaningful way, right? So
yet.
Okay, but then why are you charging more now?
I think you have to prove. I think that before you increase the pricing significantly, you have to prove to somebody higher up in the company, right? Not just somebody that deals with just the card game side, but also somebody that deals with, the slot machine side or whatever, that it's like, this huge thing that we spend like hundreds of thousands of dollars on a month is just sunk money, right? Like it sucks, yeah, but in a capitalist company, all they see that as is a huge sink of money. And it's like, okay, yeah, this thing that we're already sinking hundreds of thousands of dollars a month into, with losing money every single time, it can only be sunk cost for for so long,
and you lose
right?
money every
and then
single
to
time
say,
you air a
yeah,
cheap-
but we want. And then we say, yeah, but we want to increase the pricing. We want them to get more out of it and not ask anything extra. It's like, okay, well, if you increase the pricing and they're still topping out every venue that they go to, it's like, yeah, look, we made more money. Now that we've shown that this is a consistent thing that will keep going even if we raise the price, now we can justify doing way higher prize pools.
Okay.
That said, if the prize pools don't increase, then it's just...
So making the prize, if your numbers are right, making the prize pool better is like the cheapest part of what they would be doing in raising the price. It would be the least expensive thing
potentially
from everything.
Depends
else.
on how they raise the prize pool. I mean, if they make it towards cash prizing, right,
Yeah.
and they're doing $20,000 in cash prizing split amongst Top Cut, then like, no, it's not. But
yeah, but even just marginally making it better would be a huge thing. The other thing too is I don't buy the lose money thing. Like, you go into the red to do these events in the same way that you go into the red to run a TV spot on 4Kids. It's just, like it's a gigantic advertisement that appeals to the base. I think it's exactly the same. I do not buy the argument that doubling the price is necessary. I think that just there's no world where I think that makes sense. Now, it's possible.
Listen, I'm not saying I agree with it.
I'm not saying that you think it's a good thing. I'm just saying that I don't think going through all of these hoops to do apologetics for Konami on why they would do this is worth it, because it's not a small company. It's totally fair to be like, there's a whole bunch of levels that stuff probably has to go through, and maybe somebody just like randomly at the high end of the company looked at this and was like, hey, we're bleeding money on this, you guys have to stop. Is reasonable, right? But it's not a small company. They make an unbelievable amount of money. Konami made more money last year than they have ever made, ever.
Sure.
So
but some dude in a different division looking at numbers doesn't see where all this money goes.
When you make, okay, but that's their problem. That's not ours.
That is true.
If they get that wrong, that's on them. if you are going to make an unbelievable amount of money, importantly, with Yu-Gi-Oh being a massive driving force of that, if you look at the Master Duel numbers, it is a lot of money that Duel Links even makes an unbelievable amount of money still.
Duel Links makes stupid money.
Raising the price of in-person events does not make sense to me. So that's my especially.
Is there a number where there's like is there a number where it's like, oh yeah, on the European events specifically, because of Europe being so much tighter on space, having less event centers but having more people, that it's like, okay, yeah, in Europe, because of the high demand of these convention centers and how much it's costing them, is there a point where you're like, okay, if they're losing this much money per event run, it makes a lot of sense to increase the price?
No.
Is there a point?
Because they don't talk.
So if they're losing like $250,000 every time they run a YCS in Europe, you're like,
sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying. I thought you were asking if they had come out and said like, this is why we're doing it. And my response would be
no,
like,
I'm saying,
no,
is there a number?
Probably, yeah.
No, they don't
like
talk
if you like, for example, Konami in the US is holding one in the Tokyo Dome. That is pretty extravagant. To expect Konami to do stuff like that for every YCS would be obscene. Like
in Japan, you mean?
Yeah, in Japan, yeah. So like renting out like in Toronto, for example, if they wanted to like rent out the Rogers Center to do like a YCS one time, that would be an astronomical amount of money. Like it would make absolute sense to raise the price of entry for that. And importantly,
yeah, but like the Niagara Convention Center is still probably like in the high, not high, in the solidly into the 5 digits just to rent that per day.
Yeah, and there's a reason that they moved it to Vancouver. So I don't think raising the price is bad.
I don't think Vancouver's any cheaper.
I think doubling it is unreasonable. Like,
but is there a point where you're like, oh, actually no, this was reasonable? Like if they're losing like $250,000 every single event that they run, just off of, you know.
Okay, if they're losing 250, no, okay. I'm going to swing this in a different direction. This is a game that has a lot higher of an audience, right? How much do you think it costs Riot to put on like the League of Legends World Championships, right? Do you think they lose money on that?
I think it costs them significantly less money to run that event, except for exactly venue cost. I also think that they make significantly more money on League of Legends than Yu-Gi-Oh makes.
It's an absolutely
on Yu-Gi-Oh.
It's definitely a different scale, but you compare like that giant stadium to booking for a YCS, right?
The stadium is the only thing that costs more money. The stage costs not that much more. And notably, what you really have to consider here is Konami, on top of having to employ all of the broadcasters, all of the technical staff, all of that, Konami also has to employ hundreds and hundreds of judge staff that have to oversee individual play-by-play things that you do not have to employ at a League of Legends event because the computer does it all for you.
Well, League probably hires more artists for like music videos and animators and a bunch of stuff. Like, I would be floored if
they also make more money.
Okay, they make more money on their game. I would be floored if they actually made money from the event itself. And that is my point, is that it's a huge advertisement is what it is. The music videos, huge advertisement. Like, honestly, on like the animation side of things, I would be floored if like some of the more popular ones have obviously not done really well for themselves and made money. But if you look at animations for like Valorant, for example, one of the most recent ones, BB Nos and Grabbits, I don't remember the name of the song, but like they probably do make some money on it, but at the beginning it's like a huge loss. It's because it's an advertisement. That's what I think these events are. So I don't know.
Yeah, I just think that the scale that you're operating at is so different.
Okay, I disagree. Well, I agree.
I mean, League when you,
I agree.
It's one of those things where it's like,
sorry, you go ahead.
You know, if I spend, 25% of my monthly income on my mortgage for my house, that is a lot of money to me, right? Whereas if a billionaire spends 25% of their monthly income on their property that they live on, it would be like the fanciest property in the world, right? So for Konami to spend, 5% of their budget on running this event for this month, it's like that's a ton of money versus when Riot spends their money for this championship event that they only run like once or twice a year, right? They don't run this 3 times in a month like Konami does. For them to put on this event, it's like, yeah, it cost 5% of our budget this year, but our budget was $200 million. Where Konami's like, yeah, that's what we've made in the last 20 years off of Yu-Gi-Oh! Not quite, but not that. The number's not that far off.
It's not. So like
It's like 500 million.
again, we look at like we look at the scale, right?
Like the economies of scale are so different here.
So the company's full year financial results for fiscal year 2022, revenue up 9.9%. Their total revenue was $2.3 billion.
That's Riot, right?
No, that's Konami.
Okay, that's
So-
their total year-on-year revenue for. Okay,
For 2022.
how much of that was from the Yu-Gi-Oh TCG?
Okay.
Not much.
This is okay. So the TCG is correct. I'm going to give you an example of where this logic breaks down. Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem, the base games, they do make good money. They sell really well. But the reason that they could afford to make a game like Fire Emblem Three Houses is because of the astronomical amount of money that Fire Emblem Heroes, which is their mobile game, makes. The cash cows, Duel Links and Master Duel, are what fund the rest of the operation, at least as it exists now, right? And it's not that the TCG doesn't make money. They make like astronomical amounts of money off of these. So to squeeze more out of the TCG side of things when it's the TCG side that is already struggling to keep players does not make sense.
I think that there's a reason that we get 4, maybe 5 European YCSs a year, whereas we get 10 or 12 American ones a year. It's
They
because
should tell us. They should tell us that then. They should tell us why.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but if you just take the time to logic it out, then you already know why. We don't need a statement from them to tell us something we already know.
But
They're losing tons of money on this event. Tons of money. Because European events are really, really expensive.
Because it's a giant advertisement. I do not agree
Because
with you
they have to pay
fundamentally.
more money for the venues because there's less venues that need to hold more players, and you have to pay people way more money to hold these events in Europe. Because in Europe, they have to pay more people that are in more unions, and they have to pay more money. They have to pay more to the judges. Everything costs so much more. It makes sense that the European events are not the same price forever that the American events are.
Yeah, and they don't have to be the same price. They just shouldn't double. Like, I don't disagree that it's like some, like, given that they have to make money on the big events that gather the most competitive players. I don't know that any company does that. Like, do you think that Capcom makes money on their events where they have $100,000 prize pools for their fighting game tournaments? No, they don't. Right? I just don't buy that it's necessary. That's like I bet you
Tournament
could run through,
packages, by the way, we paid 25 euros, I think. Was it 25 or 27 euros for YCS London earlier this year?
I'd have to pull it up. It was 20 or 25.
Because I think it ended up being 27 US dollars. I think it was like 23, 24 euros. They are now 45 euros. They're 45 euros. I just looked it up. So they did not double.
No,
It's 45 euros
they did double.
to enter YCS Bologna.
Let me pull it up.
It did not double. Unless it was 22.50, in which case, yes, it exactly doubled.
I believe it was 22.50 because all the European players have said that it doubled.
Okay. Well, then it doubled.
But
But at
I
least
will-
it's not
after-
55 or
yeah.
60.
After the show, I will put up the price here. After the show, I will go confirm the exact amount. I guess my last comment on this is that I just don't agree with you. I think they can lose money, and importantly, I'm not saying that you're like on the side of Konami here. You've made it very clear that you don't like that the price is going up and that people have to pay more money to go to events. I
Right.
disagree with the logic that it's like this. I don't think we need to do apologetics for them. I think that they can do better. That's my
Okay.
That's my pose.
I guess my last closing thought here, because we do need to cover the OCG ban list.
Yeah.
I didn't mean for this to turn into a big thing, but like,
it's a good discussion.
I think that my closing thought on this is that everything is more expensive, and astronomically so. And I think that there is a point where everything is so much more expensive that Konami looks at their ledger books and says, we can lose money on this, but we're losing way too much money on this. Like, doubling the entry cost of this event might not even get them out of the red. It might just lessen the blow. So I think that while I'm not trying to be an apologist, I'm not trying to say that what they're doing is good. I'm saying that from a logistical standpoint, they might really not have any choice. So to me, I think that at this point, we're pretty much all adults. And I don't see 45 euros as being the end all be all. Granted, I'm very blessed to be in a very good financial situation mostly, but to me, I understand the frustration, especially with the prize pool being not good, to be quite frank. I see rising costs, and I can understand where they're coming from as a company. So
Again, I think
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah,
I really do.
Riot is maybe an unfair comparison. I think Capcom is probably the more realistic one. But on that note, speaking of Konami, the OCG put out their Forbidden Limited list.
Oh, and also Rush Duel comes to Duel Links, I think, today as of airing.
Probably today as of airing sometime this week.
Yeah.
So, October 1st, 2023, limit regulation in the OCG. We have... so they have made more hits to tier because for probably the 7th list in a row, the deck has not died. So 2 of the Ishizu cards are now banned, and that's Agido the Ancient Sentinel and Kelvek the Ancient Vanguard.
This needed to happen. Honestly, this should probably happen in the TCG also, but this definitely needed to happen in the OCG. They absolutely will not, under any circumstances, give up their immense attachment to the Ishizu and to the tier limit cards. It was time.
I agree. Next up, we've got, I think they should ban the Shufflers, to be honest. The Millers maybe are... they should just ban them all. I was trying to be...
They never should have made them.
Now I'm trying to do Ishizu apologetics. Okay, so...
They never should have made them.
Speaking of cards that never should have been made, Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon, is also banned in the OCG.
Dude, I'm so conflicted on this because it's such a cool card, but it really just cannot exist. This card's so busted.
Yep. So Master Duel, I think, is the only format where this is still legal, which makes sense because it's kind of behind both formats. So Trish, you've got a little bit more time to play with this. So the reason that this is...
Don't get used to it.
Yeah. So this isn't even a Dragon's hit. This is actually a tier hit because in the OCG, they're doing the Rev Synchron tier stuff where they make Chaos Ruler with the AFD and then the Rev Synchron coming back. So this...
Broken.
It's basically another tier hit is what it is. And then finally...
Wow.
They are actually behind both of the other formats on this. The OCG has finally banned number 86 Heroic Champion Rongaminiad. I don't even think it was doing anything, but I am happy to see it gone.
This is the first time. If I'm not mistaken, if Twitter is correct, the misinformation counter might jump 1 here. This is one of the first times, how about that they have banned an extra deck floodgate in the OCG. I think Shockmaster is banned, but I think the count on extra deck floodgates being banned in the OCG is very, very low compared to the TCG.
Is Azathoth banned in the OCG? Because it might be the list might be like Shockmaster, Azathoth, Zexal, and this. So it's it is a really small list.
Yeah.
I might be
and
wrong.
They're all Xyz.
Yeah, shocker. It's interesting because I think
Shockmaster, yeah.
The TCG does not...
Shockmaster.
you're gonna take my job with the card puns too? Ugh, that's a good one. You're pulling out a Shockmaster right now.
Shut up. Keep going.
Okay. So
Don't draw any attention to me.
there's only
Ignore the man with the box.
I am ignoring the man with the box. So next up we have Tier Limits Kashtira. This has moved from unlimited to limited. So they had to limit tier cash. That is how desperate they have gotten to tell people to stop playing this deck. They're like, we are banning 2 of the Ishizu cards. We are banning Chaos Ruler, and also tier cash is at 1.
I would also like to point out that True King of All Calamities is still limited in the OCG.
I cannot believe that. That is just so.
I'm almost positive.
I'm pretty sure they banned it. I'll have to look that
No,
up later.
they didn't.
I thought they banned it.
At least, as shocking as it is, they did not.
That looks
At
pretty
least
crisp,
not
actually.
at first.
As our good
It
friend,
is. It's in my bulk. My bulk is all crisp.
As our good friend Caitlin would say, unlock the shock. So
Do not ever do that.
please do not ever do that. I will play rank 4 dinosaurs and you will hate your existence. Next up is
I will also play rank 4 dinosaurs and you'll hate your existence.
you can make Shockmaster Lagia Dolka and then be like turn off monsters or like turn off like whatever you want.
And I bet you can do it shockingly easy.
Okay.
All right.
The other limited card is Block Dragon, and it has moved from semi-limited to limited. How do you feel about this one?
Unlock the block in the TCG. What can I say?
Please don't do that.
I'm not going to lie to you. I would be fine with 1 block dragon in the TCG.
No.
Give Emancipator something to work with. Give me a reason why you can't.
There are okay.
No,
So
no,
you know
no.
that
Actually,
give me a reason?
I think
Hello.
that Emancipator has been power crept to the point that we can have 1 block dragon, and I'm not kidding.
Okay, but why? This is like
To give the deck a boost in playability. It's the same thing with Orcus players wanting Harp Horror back. It gives the deck a play. Like think about like what the deck was doing before. You no longer have Auroradon or Halki Fibrex combos. That's a big part of the deck. Just gone.
Yeah, but you also have Baron de Fleur and Dispatter and all like the other synchro tools that exist
You're
right
doing
now.
that anyway.
They think Emancipator would turn into like the best Calamity Lock deck, if we're being real. Like, well, Centurion probably would be better, but still. The other thing too is that
Calamity Lock? You think so?
Yeah, the level 12.
You think it would be the best Calamity Lock deck?
I think
What
so.
if we just ban Calamity? I don't think it's an issue.
I mean, we could do that, but the structure deck just came out.
Don't remind me.
Yeah.
What else we got?
I guess last thing. Okay, yeah. Block Dragon at 1. I presume they're preparing to ban it like they have in Master Duel. Maybe slow steps to a
Probably
maxi
not.
ban, but anyway. So the semi-limited list.
What do you mean preparing to ban it? They still have grass at 3. What do you want? I mean,
Master Duel has grass at 1
Anyway.
now, I think. But
actually, I think it's at 2 in the OCG.
probably right.
Whatever.
So semi-limited list, Rescue Ace Airlifter has gone from unlimited to semi-limited. Rescue Ace right now is the best deck in the OCG, and I think post-list it probably still is. Airlifter is their best starter, so this does matter from a consistency perspective, but it's like putting Unicorn to 2, where it's like, cool, I guess. You got 1 less starter.
Yeah.
Hurley Delicious Memory from unlimited to semi-limited. Just a tap on the wrist. These hits, funny enough, I think these hits are actually somewhat effective against Pearly, just because the fewer spells that you have access to, the weaker playing the deck gets.
Yep, it's a consistency hit.
Yeah. Rivalry of Warlords from unlimited to semi-limited. Sure. Why would you do this? I mean, I'm happy, but do more.
Because of the best of 1 format in the OCG, they want to limit floodgates ever so slightly and make it slightly less consistent to draw them. But that's so stupid. Because even, guess what? In the OCG, they also have Pot of Prosperity, which means that the consistency of seeing anything is high.
Prosp is
So
limited in the
stupid.
OCG.
They still have it
it's
though. It
still
doesn't
there, yeah.
matter if it's limited. I mean, the card's very existence means that every deck that plays it is just more consistent at seeing non-engine. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I don't.
We-
It's just so stupid.
As much as it sucks that people are like going to be excited to have the reprint in the rarity collection, this card probably should just not exist.
Yeah, none of them should. None of the. I've said this forever. Rivalry, Goes, and Tikaboo should all be banned. Not because necessarily of how crappy they are to play against. And don't get me wrong, they could be banned entirely based on that. These cards should be banned because they're not intuitive. They're so unintuitive as cards that they shouldn't exist. How many times have you had to explain summoning something? It's like, oh yeah, no, you can't tribute summon this thing because you would be attempting to summon something else even if it leaves the field first.
Yep.
Like how many times have you explained that you under rivalry, you can't link away a 10E, if you normal summon Adhara, you can't link it away into Link Kuriboh under rivalry.
Yep.
Because even though you would link it away as cost, you still can't, like, infinite times. If I have to explain that one more time, it's like, dude, just ban it.
Yeah.
Nobody likes these cards anyway. Get rid of them.
They are like rivalry goes and match, and there can be only one is like basically the only time that the TCG has come out and posted like a specific rulings document about a set of cards. Like this is we do not have a rulings database, and they had to come out with like a full blog post about how these cards worked.
And it gets worse when you think about it, though, because these cards specifically, they also serve as problematic end board pieces because it's that piece of non-engine that it's like anti-spell fragrance. But I'm actually okay with anti-spell fragrance because while I know that you're not, and I understand why, I think anti-spell fragrance actually has like a certain amount of counterplay. Whereas if I look at a format and I go, oh, everybody's playing decks with a bunch of different typings, I'll just play Rivalry in my Sword Soul deck. It's not a card that is going to affect the deck that it's in, right? Like Skill Drain, you can make the argument that it's going to affect both decks to some extent no matter what, right? Anti-spell fragrance will affect both decks that it's in to some extent no matter what, because these are fundamental cards of the parts of the game. It's fundamental mechanics that you're turning off. But these cards don't turn off any particular fundamental mechanic, just bits and pieces that benefit or don't benefit a particular deck. Does that make sense?
I agree. We can have anti-spell discourse another time, but I agree with your larger point that it's like it's about the reasonable existence of counterplay. And I think you're right that it's like in the decks that you can play those cards in, they are not hurt by them at all. And so it becomes like, it's kind of a weird cat and mouse game. But I definitely agree with the overall sentiment.
It's one of the reasons that the Sword Soul branded matchup is so cancer, is because at any given point in time, if you're playing Sword Soul, you can just flip Anti-Spell Fragrance, Rivalry of Warlords, or D-Barrier and end your opponent's turn and career. And if you're playing the branded matchup, you can just flip Tikaboo or D-Barrier at any point and end the Sword Soul player's career. Like, these cards make these matchups, like without D-Barrier, Tikaboo, Rivalry, or Gozen, like, that would be one of the most interesting matches ever. But because of the existence of these cards, it's just not interesting because these cards ended.
You can tell that we're fired up today. We have a lot to say about Yu-Gi-Oh today.
Absolutely.
But not that we usually don't. But today we're feeling the flames. So rest of the list here, semi-limited. Gears of the Orcus Mech Knight, who cares? Limited to semi-limited. Supreme King Dragon Darkworm.
So stupid.
Limited to semi-limited. They probably were just waiting to see if the AGOF stuff would do anything. Since it didn't, you can have Darkworm.
Exactly.
Dragonic Diagram, limited to semi-limited, does matter. It matters for Dinosaur specifically. There's been some rumblings in the OCG of some Dino stuff. There've been a couple of local events it started to creep into. Diagram to 2 matters for the combo stuff, and it also means that Draco might be able to play again. Unlikely, but possible. Fluanderies in the Magnificent Map to 2 is interesting. The OCG specifically has really, really been very hard on Fluanderies, so it's interesting to see that they're kind of easing up on it a bit.
Yeah.
Unlimited.
I'm fine with this. I mean, the Fluanderies map, it's just a slight consistency boost. This is not the end of the world.
Yep. Unlimited. Armageddon Knight, semi-limited to unlimited. This is interesting. I've heard people talk about doing this in the TCG, and honestly, it is not. The card is really, really good, right? It's unbelievably good. But it's good in like YouTube combo decks. So
exactly.
Although with Revolution Synchron being a thing, I do not want to know what you can do with Armageddon Knight and Rev Synchron. This is interesting. Super Heavy Samurai Bike, semi-limited to unlimited. They're easing up on super heavy hits.
This is fine.
This is probably honestly because Block Dragon went down to 1. Because that was like the version of the deck people were playing in the OCG, was the Ademancipator super heavy.
Yeah.
This one is, so Prank Kids Meow Meow Moo went from 2 to 3.
The only one that matters.
In the OCG. Yeah, there's only one that really matters. I've seen people talk about bringing this back in the TCG.
I'm just going to say light stage to 3 also. That's the last card. It doesn't matter. We're going to focus on Meow Meow.
I hope that this card never comes off the list in the TCG. I agree. I think it's a design mistake. I do feel bad for the Prank Kids players because it's such a huge difference as to whether your deck is like playable at all to way too good. I think if Konami had decided to hit the adventure engine, that it could come back. But with the adventure engine, it's just way too strong.
I think that people that want Meow Meow Moo to come back are the same kind of people that want Tier Limit Kick Kalos to come back.
That's a great comparison.
Well, here's the thing. Every time I hear, no, Kick Kalos is fine. Kick Kalos can come back. It's the same thing. I hear the same thing as, no, Meow Meow would be fine. Meow Meow can come back. The cat did nothing wrong. It's like, it just reminds me of like the Rage comic guy where he's just like angry with red eyes, like screaming. And it's like, you know you're being unreasonable. This card should not be coming back. Just because the OCG is being stupid. Like, okay, they also have 3 Maxi. Do you want 3 Maxi? No, you don't want 3 Maxi. You don't. Nobody actually wants. Like this segment of the population that actually wants 3 Maxi disappeared when Master Duel came out, and they realized how cancer and toxic that card is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and what's crazy is that's true. Within like a month of Master Duel releasing, everybody had unanimously agreed, no, this card sucks. I don't want this card back at all.
I remember
because they realized that Ademancipator going full combo is bad enough. If they also have Max C, it's just unwinnable.
So it's interesting. That's what I guess my last tidbit for the episode. That's exactly what Joshua Schmidt was saying. Because I believe it was like a month after it released. He was like, Maxi honestly is like not that bad. And it's like there's a bunch of other stuff here that's an issue. And so we don't have to worry about it. And then I think 9 months later, he was like, just get rid of this card, please. It's just, we can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean, people were apologists for Maxi. They were like, no, it could balance the game. You know, it could bring us to a place where like everybody plays a little more conservatively and mid-ranging, and it's going to slow the game down. It's like, no, you play for your combo. If they Max C you still combo knowing that, yes, they have 20 cards in their hand, but most of the cards in their hand are a hard once per turn. So their combo lines stay the same. They can only do so much. And if you make an unbreakable board, it doesn't matter if they max seed you or if you max seed them or not, because you still can only do so much into their unbreakable board. And then if you follow that up with, oh, they also have a max seed of their own, you just lose the game. Mm-hmm. It's so stupid. People realize this, and now nobody in the TCG that's sane is asking for Max C back anymore because they all understand how bad it is.
Speaking of Max C pack, why don't we read some patron names?
Absolutely. So huge thank you to all of our wonderful patrons, starting with Bring Red Reboot Back to 3, Kane Martin, Zyphorus, Big Stinky, Blows His Best, Copium, Ding Dong Tosis, The Yang Zing, Gold Secrets coming back when Konami got my Ash beat by Crossout Designator, HGH Cyber. I used to play Rogue, but then my mom got a job. Is Canada, Nickelback, John Hill, Mountain Man, Oatmeal Spaghetti, Owen Alvarado, Pistol Place Pendulums, She Sallow on my Mangrate till I redacted.
That's good.
Silver Hope, understanding and reading are two different things. Virtually Savior's World, as any one red toy vendor, it's kind of like reading Miscars, Aaron Garner, Alexander Chan, Asami, Ashlish Chaps, Atsuyo, Simpa the Silver Castle, Blackwing Silver, the Descendant is the best floodgate, Box Wine, come on and get your game on, Duty Booty, Dragon Maidenless Behavior, I'm about to Rico Glamour, True He's planting nuts in your mouth, Level 4 Fire Warrior Gaming, Lama Yama, Cam, Sarama, Maxi Pack, Neshi, Old Man Red, Pinco 143, and Slaking It Up. Thank you all so much for your continued support of the podcast. Until next time, and this is going to be a shocking development, but I hope you have a great day.
Enjoy the new format, everybody. With a new ban list, it's going to be a new frontier. This one was weak. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah.